Welcome to your support group podcast, your home for your number one podcast. As always, as you can tell, it's been a long week. Not just week, but the last past couple days. I mean, you can call Q Hurricane Q, and you call me Tropical Storm Kenny, because I mean that was where we was at this weekend. I still think half of the power is not on around here. I know it took them about 12, 13 hours before our power came back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty parts of North Carolina that's impacted. My heart goes out to them, especially up there in the foothills and the mountains. Those people are not used to tropical storms hitting them.
Right.
And their little stuff just blew away.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Here, Hillsborough County, South Tampa, some parts of Brandon, especially over in St. Pete, Pinellas County, where I work, Clearwater, a lot of flooding, from the storm surge. It wasn't even a lot of rain. It was the storm surge just pushing water in. It was crazy. And then over here we had the wind. The wind was crazy. The wind was about that life. It just took my little greenhouse and toppled it over. And I had 120 pounds of sandbags trying to keep that thing up. And a gust just came through and it just tilted over like the Leaning Tower of Pisa and fell on over.
The wind gust was like, oh, that's all you got? That's all you're going to give me is 120 pounds? Oh, you don't respect me? Okay, I got you. Babe.
Right. So I learned to respect the wind. Like I was trying to tell my son because he wanted to go driving around. Oh, it's not that bad. It's barely even raining. It's not even doing nothing. I said, the wind, son. The wind.
The wind. Yeah. Because the wind here, like I was telling you, I mean, you can literally hear our roof buckling. How much that wind was just bearing down. Like it was not like some come across. It was bearing down. Like earlier that morning, I had went out to go get us some coffee. And it wasn't even raining that heavy, but the wind was basically taking the rain that you was like, oh, that's about to hit nope, it's about to hit you right in your face.
Right. Right.
And just taking it right off the ground and just throwing it up in your face.
Sideways, yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God. Like I'm walking into the store and I swear to you, like I probably spent about 2.3 seconds walking from the car to the store. I mean, I was the only person there. It wasn't really nobody there at Harris T. Especially that early in the morning with that much rain and storm gust winds going on. There wasn't nobody there. So as I was walking, like I was like, oh, it's not that bad. That wind said, whew. And I swear to you, every bit of my body was soaked. Even my shirt underneath my my rain jacket was soaked. And I was like, how? And it was soaked from underneath. Like it was just blowing stuff up underneath there.
I'm still missing the plant. I have no idea where it went. I'm mad too because it took me forever to grow that thing. And it was doing good. It was looking strong. I'm like, where is it? Maybe it's in a neighbor's yard or something. I don't know where it went. I have no idea.
Yeah, my little plant, he made it through the storm. Little shout out to little Dino. Yeah, that's because it was Carson's plant. Somehow it became my plant, but that's normal when you got kids. Like, oh, I want a dog, and then somehow it becomes your dog. But anyway, but she still goes out there and talk to it because I told her you got to talk to him. But it started out as this little old thing I bought for her, little old flower, and now it's like a little pot about this big, and it don't spread out about that big. It's one of those plants that it don't like a lot of water. So I was scared as I don't know what when that storm came through, but I hadn't watered it in like 3-4 days. So
it balanced out.
It balanced out. I was like, I ain't gonna have to water you for about 5 days now. You had to dry out some. And then when I finally got the opportunity to go out there, I pulled them back from up off of the balcony because my biggest worry was if it gets oversaturated and that plant dies, she look outside and say, I want to go talk to dog. So I said, let me go rescue this plant before it becomes a hassle.
Yeah.
But yeah, just waiting for that, waiting for that power to come back on was a task and a half, because when you look at the fact that I got a 4-year-old and she ain't gonna sit still, and phones start dying, laptops start dying, immediately I was like, I'm gonna have to go sit out in the car for a couple of hours to charge all this stuff. And I literally like charged like 3 phones, a laptop, a tablet. We're just sitting there, just listening to music. Yeah. Crank the engine every once in the blue, turned it off. But yeah, it was a mess. But next time I'll make sure that I have me like a little mini generator or something, because even my little power pack, we ran through that. I was like, oh man, this is not going to go well. If this power don't come back on in 5 more hours,
right,
it's not going to go well. Well, it would have went well, because I probably would have had some really good steaks, because I damn sure would have did an insurance claim.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. And like I said, my heart goes out to the people up there in the foothills, Asheville, Boone, all those areas, Blowing Rock, all those areas up there, even the Tennessee side, because they feeling it now. Like those dams started overflowing, and they had to open up some of them to let all the water out and flooded some towns. And like if you ever been up there to the Boone and Asheville area, it's almost, me and my wife was talking about this. It's almost like a big old bowl. So you got the mountains, and then you got the foothills, and it comes back up for the foothills. So all that rain just drops down into that valley. And I just can't imagine it, them, waking up that morning and looking around and saying, maybe this would be the day my house would just wash down the street. Couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to them.
Yep. And shout out to all the linemen, because I don't think y'all get enough praise. Because let me tell you, y'all don't get enough. But yes, and the sanitation workers, because y'all been out there hoofing it, trying to get stuff cleaned up. So yeah, shout out to y'all. Thanks for everything that y'all do.
Yeah. I mean, well, in my neighborhood, they got a big round of applause. Like you could hear everybody say, "Yeah." I was sitting in my house cracking up laughing. I'm like, yo, I know they are not outside yelling and clapping their hands. I could have swore I heard one lady say, "Hallelujah."
Yeah, well, look, until you've been without power for Ian, we were out of power for like almost 4 days.
Whew.
And when it finally came back on, my son almost cried. He was so, and I started crying because he was so happy. It's rough being without power. Like, I don't even know how they did it back in like them times before we had electricity. Like, what y'all did?
Well, you got to think about the earth was different then. I mean, It wasn't, they wasn't seeing record temperatures as much as they see now. I think, in a sense, man tampers with weather to the point that, the North Carolina foothills are seeing hurricane force winds now, They didn't have to deal with that before. So I think back in those days, they just dealt, well, think about this, right? Growing up, we about the same age. So growing up, a lot of houses, and this is the South, a lot of houses in the South didn't have central air, central heat, didn't have no type of central cooling whatsoever, and people survived off of box fans in the window. So
yeah, we sure did. That was our air conditioner.
Right. I grew up on the box fan. When I was younger, we lived in New Jersey, but during my teenage years, we lived in the South, and we had a box fan. Having the air conditioner was a plus,
a luxury. Yeah.
Later on, just like color TV. Like I didn't have a color TV till I was 11. 10, 11. So, I mean, I thought everybody was black and white on TV.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can tell you how they did it. They did it. They probably worked out there in them fields in that heat for a long period of time and went in the house, and the house was probably 10 degrees cooler.
And
They
passed
was
out.
good. Give me
Yeah.
give me some water. And they went in there and got that water, and that was it. They was sleep. I eats when I awakes. Yep. But today I want to talk about being discouraged.
Mm.
Overcoming discouragement. Now, I'm human just like everybody else, and I tell everybody this all the time. The stuff I talk about is stuff I've been through, and having to overcome discouragement sometimes is hard because, well, as far as like when I used to do a lot of stage plays and audition for a lot of stuff, and you hear all those no's constantly, 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 and then you start building up this thing inside your head where it's like you go to this next one and you're like, man, I don't even know why I went. And then you just over time just stop going. Um, and then you like, oh man, I could do better than acting. I could do this, I could do that. And so then you build up like a hardness of heart. And it's crazy when you think about how people deal with discouragement. The other aspect of it is, when you go apply for these jobs, and I know that if you follow me on any type of social media, I posted a meme with this Elmo talking about when he was filling out these applications. And yeah, I mean, something like that can really discourage you when somebody tell you, yeah, sorry, we can't accept your application at this time. Try applying back next year or something like that. Like what am I putting on here wrong? And there's a lot of things out here too, and not a lot of things, but a lot of people out here too that won't tell you actually what you're doing wrong or how to correct some things. I mean, if you come across to somebody like me and you say, "Hey, Kenny, what's happening here? Why can't I get this job or why?" And I'll tell you what XYZ. Well, part of it is probably your resume ain't saying what actually all you can do. Another aspect would be that you haven't had enough experience in that area or a whole plethora of things. But somebody should be able to grab you and pull you to the side and say, "Hey, this is why this is happening." But yeah, dealing with discouragement is a nice little walk with God sometimes. So
Yeah, it is. I've been there. I used to work at the DMV, and honestly, they don't pay you enough to work that job. And I felt like my skill set, I was applying for management positions, and I knew I was qualified for them. I had master's degrees and all kinds of stuff. But because certain people didn't want me at that level, they would block it. So finally, I just said, let me just step out on faith. And I left in 2015, and it was a rough year. A year of applying and just not even understand. Like you said, well, tell me what's not right. And so
right,
finally, I said, well, you know what I'm gonna do? Some of these jobs, I feel like when I was going on interview, the people were feeling, because one lady looked at me, she said, "You have a master's degree? Take stuff off my resume
intimidates them.
that intimidates them." Yeah, so
Hmm.
I found myself doing a lot of that. And then one of the good things about my situation is being a veteran, I was able to reach out to wounded warriors, which I've been a part of that for like several years now. And I work with an
And shout
employment,
out to them too.
right, an employment counselor who actually was looking at my resume. Like you said, look, if you're applying for these types of jobs, for federal jobs, you have to be very specific. They need to know more. Like they need to know that you're qualified for this,
Yeah, they gotta have them keywords in there.
keywords. So that was the thing that I didn't know that. But you, like you said, you need somebody to like tap you on the shoulder and say, okay, Let's figure out what's not going right so you can understand where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even even somebody that's like freshly out of college
Mm-hmm.
needs that, like that direction or something like that. Like a lot of people don't want to give that kind of information out nowadays, and I don't know why. Oh, I can make an online book. I can make $1 million up off of this. Like, just give them some pointers. If you're gonna make an online book or make $1 million off of it, that's fine. But you still need people to see whether or not your stuff works. So I mean, it doesn't hurt nothing to say, hey, maybe if you do X, Y, Z or correct this right here, maybe you'll get a different result. See how
Right.
that works out for you.
Right.
Um, even a lot of times when you're feeling discouraged or being blocked from something, that's just God protecting you from what is next. and and I hate to go back into it, but it was a lot of key signs there that said no, don't do it. And the the tiredness and everything like that. And there was a bunch of stuff that kept blocking me from being in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But I overcame those. And then all of a sudden I found out why those walls kept going up, Like even my daughter's college situation, she would have been in Asheville right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole thing was like, hey, why does this keep on happening? Okay, we got this corrected. We got the money. We got this. Why is this? And then it came all down to it. And I was like, hey, just take the semester off. We'll figure it out in January. Who knew that Helen would come back 24 years later
Mm-hmm.
and do the exact same thing she did before? So, yeah, who knew? And I just feel like a lot of people always, say, well, oh, okay, now I'm discouraged. Now, why won't this let? And then they get inside that door opens up and they walk through it, then they find out this really wasn't for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I should have never even tried to attempt at this.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to see what it is so you understand why you don't want it. Like you'll look at something and you be like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And then you go and you're like, oh no, this ain't what I thought it was. Oh hell no.
And that's where I was. That's where I was. I looked around and I was like, oh hell no. Nope. Nope, not for me. And maybe that's the key thought, maybe it's not for you, maybe that is not the door for you, but if you keep on pressing on, and now see, this is the key aspect, because see, a lot of people, they get discouraged, then they start doing stuff like way below them, way beneath them, and then they wonder why when they turn like 50 they're way below what they was when they was 20. That's
Mm-hmm.
because you allowed yourself to become and stay in that discouragement,
Mm-hmm.
that discouraged feeling. And if you don't hop back on that horse, you don't ride that horse, you don't work your way up out of that situation, then you're going to keep on having to deal or go below your means, below who you are. And that ain't never me. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't want it to be none of y'all either. That's that's
Right.
that's the truth. You shouldn't.
One of the things that I say that I started doing for myself was when something pops into my head, like, oh, you want to do this, or try this, I ask myself, why? Why, LaQuinta? Why do you want to do it? Write down why you want to do it. And then if it's a valid reason, like if you're just doing it, if you don't have a good reason why, then it'll be easy to abandon it. You have to know why you're doing something, not just because, oh, it's a good idea in the moment. Do it if it's not going to feel you in a specific way. Like a lot of times we'll see people doing stuff and we're like, oh, I want to do that too. But then why? Why do you want to do it?
Right. Because it may just be for them.
Mm-hmm.
That may be something for them, not
Mm-hmm.
for you, but for them. And it works for them in their schedule, in their life.
Mm-hmm.
They have the money, they have the backing, they have the understanding of it. They studied about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just seen them doing it and you automatically want to jump on it. And it's like, nah, like I need to read about it. And that's the same. I mean, it's a little bit different, but the same thing with me. Like I sit up there and I study and I study and I look at, what can I do to get into it the cheapest way possible? Um, what is it you're actually doing and how would it affect everything else in your household?
That part, because you also have to realize when you go off on these endeavors, there's other people that are affected. And also, you're going to need a support system in the
Oh
meantime
yeah.
while you're pursuing those endeavors. And it's important to have a good support system. I don't care what nobody say. You got to have somebody.
I'm trying to tell you, you got to have somebody. I mean, even if you're trying to become an actor and you're young or whatever like that, you're going to have to rely on your parents or things like that. I mean, you just can't. I hate when I hear people say, "Oh, I did this solo and dolo." No, you didn't. Somebody helped you along the way. It
Right,
was God. Somebody helped you along the way. You didn't do this solo dolo.
right.
Nobody does anything solo dolo. Everybody has somebody either to talk to or to back them financially
Mm-hmm.
or to just be there with them in life, like a husband and wife. Like if your husband or wife is struggling, you shouldn't be that person to be like, well, you need to get your shit together. Just get your shit together. Who told you to do that stupid ass shit?
Right.
And then that person actually makes it doing that stupid ass shit. Then now you got your hand out. Oh, I knew you would always make it. No, you didn't.
Right.
No, you didn't. So you can't just do it or go at it all alone. And talk to somebody else, but don't, because you always got one or two people in the group that's going to be that discouragement person that's going to
Mm-hmm.
talk you about it something because they failed or they sucked at life.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid that person. Avoid telling that person your goals, your dreams, anything
Yeah.
like that, because they are succubus. They will suck your dream up out of you and spit it out in such a way that you won't ever want to even try to attempt or even have a conversation with them sometimes afterwards. So,
Right.
and shout out to my wife too, because she knew it was time. She looked at me one day, she said, "I'm just wondering how long." And I
Yeah.
was like, I can last into the beginning of the year. Like I'm always I'm always the king of encouragement and positivity. So I'm like, oh, I can last into January at least. I'm fine. I'm all right. I'm not mad. And then I called her that day and said, "Today will be the day." She said, "Well, come on."
Yeah.
She said, "Well, come on." And that's the one thing I always tell her too. I say, "Look, if you ain't happy at a place, you ain't got to worry about it, baby. I got you. Come
Mm-hmm.
on."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
And that's important to have that support system, because a lot of people think, oh, a relationship is 50-50. It's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10. Sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes it's 60-40. You just pick up where the other person is lacking in that moment. And then it all balances out in the end,
right.
because you're constantly reciprocating that support and that love and that affection, and you got to do it. You got to figure out, you got to sit down. You have to have conversations too. You have to say, look, be real with yourself and be real with your person. Like,
Right.
look, I'm struggling with this. When I was even in this job that I have now, I was doing so much and it was driving me to the point where I had anxiety. And my husband said, you're doing too much. You're just doing too much.
Yeah.
He got his little Spanish accent, so he said it a different kind of way. He said it his way, but basically what it boiled down to is do what you need to do, and stop trying to fix everything and everybody,
Can't please everybody.
because people gonna do what they gonna do. Be responsible for what you're doing, and as long as it's not messing up nothing catastrophically, do your thing.
Yep. I'll tell you in a minute. My best is my best, and if you're not happy with my best, then I don't know what else to tell you.
Right.
No, I will not jump through a wall. No, I will not climb all the way up there to reach one thing with no harness, no safety. No, I'm not
Right.
doing nothing crazy. Why? Because at the end of the day, I got to still be here. I got to still
Right.
be here. I got more things to accomplish, more things to do. I'm not going to let anybody's feelings or feelings of my own discouragement and things like that stop me. And that's the thing. You gotta mentally fixate yourself on your goal. And maybe your goal was to do XYZ by the end of the year. But if you halfway there by the end of the year, you're still working towards your goal. So it's no need to be discouraged that you didn't reach your end goal by the end of the year. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think a lot of people would understand that. They're like, oh, well, the goal was to, at the end of the, no, the goal was to reach a goal at the end of the year, right? But if you're still going towards that goal, then your goal is still your goal.
Yeah, basically. Because the road to success is not a straight line. A lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that it look like this. It's all over the place. But you gotta constantly reassess. You
Look,
learn that it didn't work. That did not work. Go back.
I'm trying to tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you. Look, I've auditioned for an ass load of books. And the callback level is like a wall almost. And then all of a sudden, like the same people that said no are now coming back and saying, but I want you to read for this book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, oh, okay. And so now, now it's starting to.
Yeah.
But if I would have got discouraged in the beginning, I would have walked away from my blessing at the end,
Right.
And I knew my end goal was to read a bunch of books, get a bunch of royalty checks, and then don't have to work forever.
There you go.
How you want to pay this out? Well, on this one, I'll take the cash. But the next book that I read for you, I'll just take royalties. Don't worry. Yeah. And that's my goal, and it's going to happen. I just want to make $30,000 a month off of royalties. That's it. Nothing big. Nothing big.
Not asking for too much.
Yeah, not asking for too much. I even put back $15,000 a month for the government.
There you go.
See,
that's
that
it.
much. Just $30,000 a month off of royalties. It's not hard. Just gotta read ass load of books. That's all.
There you go.
And audition, and not get discouraged. So, if nobody told you today that they love you, we do. Don't forget to go check our website, www.ysgpodcast.com. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click, join our community, all the stuff that YouTube has to offer. Just click on all of it. Just click. And if you're on Spotify, make sure you thumb this up, leave a comment. Hey, Kenny, hey, Q, whatever. And we'll see y'all next week. Peace out. Yes, support group.